Yehovah Eloheinu Zvaot, Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. Please fill me and lead me and cover me with your Ruach HaKodesh, that I may speak your written words with boldness to those who listen. I ask all these things in Yeshua HaMashiach's name. Amen. We'll start with the Shema. Listen and obey. Children of Yehovah, pay careful attention and respond. Yehovah is our power and authority. Yehovah works in unity with himself, and you shall act upon your love to Yehovah with your power and authority, with your thoughts in mind, with your entire body, and with all the muchness that you have. Yod, Hey, Vav, Hey. Hand, behold, nail, behold. 1 Samuel chapter 30. 3 days later, when David and his men arrived in Ziklag, they found that the Amalekites had raided the Negev and Ziklag. They had sacked Ziklag and burned it down, and they had taken captive the women and everyone there, great and small. They hadn't killed anyone, but had carried them off as they went on their way. So when David and his men arrived at the city, there it was, burned down, with their wives, sons, and daughters taken captive. Then David and all the people with him cried aloud until they had no more power to cry. David's 2 wives had been taken captive, Achinoam from Yisrael, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal from Carmel. David was in serious trouble. The people were talking about stoning him to death, because all the people were in such deep grief, each man over his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in Yehovah his God. David said to Abiathar the Kohen, the son of Ahimelech, please bring me the ritual vest here. Abiathar brought the vest to David. Then David consulted Yehovah. He asked, should I go in pursuit of those raiders? Will I catch up with them? And Yehovah answered him, go in pursuit, because you will overtake them and recover everyone and everything. So David went, he and 600 men with him. They came to the Vadi Besor, where those who were to stay behind waited. When David continued in pursuit with 400 men, while 200, too exhausted to cross the Vadi Besor, stayed behind. They found an Egyptian in the countryside and brought him to David. They gave him some bread to eat and water to drink. They also gave him a lump of dried figs and 2 bunches of raisins. After eating, he revived, because he hadn't eaten anything or drunk any water for 3 days and nights. David asked him, to whom do you belong, and where are you from? He answered, I am an Egyptian boy, the slave of an Amalekite. My master abandoned me 3 days ago because I got sick. He raided the Negev and the Keriti, and the Negev of Yehuda and the Negev of Caleb, and we burned down Ziklag. David asked him, will you lead me down to this raiding party? He said, if you swear by God to me that you won't kill me or hand me back over to my master, I will lead you down to the raiders. He led them down, and there they were, spread out over the ground, eating and drinking and celebrating how much spoil they had taken from the territory of the Plishtim and the territory of Yehuda. David attacked them from dawn until the evening of the next day. Not one of them escaped, except for 400 young men who jumped on camels and got away. David recovered all that the Amalekites had taken. He also rescued his 2 wives. They found nothing missing, big or little, not sons, not daughters, not plundered goods, or anything else they had taken. David brought it all back. David took all the flocks and herds and drove them ahead of their own livestock, announcing, this is David's spoil. David came to where the 200 men were and had been too exhausted to follow him, whom they had let stay at Vadi Besor. They came out to meet David and with the people with him. When David approached them, he greeted them. But some of the men who had not gone with David were evil men, scoundrels. And they said, they didn't go with us, So we're not giving them any of the property we've recovered. Each man can take his wife and children and leave." Then David said, "No, my brothers, don't do this with the goods Yehova has given us. He protected us, and he handed the raiding party over to us. Anyhow, no one agrees with you about this. No, the share of someone who stays with equipment will be the same as the share of someone who goes out fighting. They will share equally. It has been that way from this day on. He established it as a ruling for Israel to this day. When David came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoils to the leaders of Judah who were his friends with a note. 'Here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of Yehova.' He sent such gifts to those in Bet-El, to those in Ramoth, to those in Yatir, to those in Aroer, to those in Siphmoth, to those in Eshtemoa, to those in Rachal, to those in Yechmeli, to those in the cities of Keni, to those in Hormah, to those in Kor Ashan, to those in Atach, to those in Hebron, and to all the places where David and his men had frequently visited." How can we learn to love our Creator after reading this awesome 30th chapter, 1 Samuel? We can trust that Yehova can cover us with grace when someone does not obey Yehova, and the implications touch our lives. When disaster strikes home, do as David did and cry aloud until you have no more to cry, no more power to cry. Aim to strengthen yourself in Yehova. Prostrate yourself before Yehova, humbling yourself in complete submission to Yehova. Consult Yehova for direction. Be bold in your pursuit for living out the will of Yehova. Trust that Yehova can and will orchestrate events to happen in your life for your good. Trust that Yehova will allow you to recover all that you have lost in His timing and in His way for His glory. Trust that it is Yehova who gives goods. Trust that it is Yehova who protects. How can we love others as Yeshua loves us? We can encourage others to trust in Yehova for the goods and protection. Bear one another's burdens. We can humble ourselves and consult first Yehova. Produce spiritual fruit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, humility, and self-control. We'll end with the Aaronic blessing on this Friday night Shabbat using the name. Yehova will kneel before you presenting gifts, and He will guard you with a hedge of protection. Yehova will illuminate the wholeness of His being toward you, bringing order, and He will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yehova will lift up the wholeness of His being and look upon you and will set in place all you need to be whole and complete. Shabbat Shalom.